Good afternoon from England. I'm here in Buckinghamshire, and John, you're London.
Hertfordshire, really.
Oh, Hertfordshire, are you?
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, well,
yeah.
we're bordering counties because I'm near Tring, so that's just over the border. So we're neighbours.
Yes,
How
indeed.
lovely! How lovely. Anyway, yes, I'm delighted to be joined by John Marley, J.A. Marley, who writes crime.
I do.
And for our sins, both go out. There's nothing quite like it. Killing somebody off at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's fabulous. Anywho, so yes, we're here to talk about John and his writing process and his journey to publication, which part of which I've been involved in. So when we get to the editing bit, will be an
That'll
interesting conversation.
be the most interesting part for both of us.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Say whatever you like. It's
I
no
will.
problem. No
I will.
problem at all.
I will.
So we shall start before that. We'll start with I know from your biography that you a poem when you were younger went down very well with Mr. Murray, your primary school teacher.
Clem
So
Murray,
tell us about Butch and Dutch,
Butch and
the
Dutch.
poem.
I mean, I wrote a poem about Butch and Dutch, who both liked sausages. And after that, I didn't really know where to go with the rhyming couplets. I would think it was about seven.
Yeah.
Clem Murray obviously found it funny and decided that he wanted to put it up on the notice board in the school. And the kind of the kick, the kind of the thrill of the sense of achievement, kind of just always stayed with me and always made me think, oh yeah, that felt good.
Mm,
And so I think therefore and I liked English at school, and I liked history at school. So storytelling and kind of info and communication have always been very important to me. So yeah, that's kind of where it kicked off. And also, I mean, I've had a career in television as well, and I
mm,
started in radio before I was in television. And so obviously in the media you have to, there's lots of writing to be done. I was a researcher, television researcher for 7 years of my life, and
mm,
you're writing constantly, yeah, briefing notes for presenters for interviews, and just collating information for maybe a shoot or something like that. So
mm,
writing has always been a part of what I've done professionally.
mm.
And so it was kind of a natural evolution for me to then try my hand at fiction at some stage.
Mm. Did you go because you're saying about not just the writing aspect? Did you have drama at school? You involved
Um,
in?
I did. Oh, you've tapped into something there. So I really wanted to be an actor,
Okay.
and I really,
What's your memory like? Because I'm
but it's,
hopeless.
it's not bad for learning
Okay.
lines. And
Yeah.
I've done a bit of Shakespeare. I was in Guys and Dolls, and
Wow.
I've actually played King Lear, which was something else. But
Did you have a beard or did you have a
I
one
had,
stuck
yeah,
on back then?
and talc in my hair to make my hair look like it was
A
grey.
grey. Which is what you'll do now, obviously.
Obviously, yes,
Yes,
I've just
yes.
done some before I came on here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I always wanted to be an actor. And when it came to choosing my A levels, my O levels first of all, and then my A levels, I both times tried to put drama down, and my parents intervened and said, "No,
Oh.
it's too insecure, and we're not letting you
Yeah,
do that.
no
It's
money in acting, so
not
go into
a,
writing
it's
instead.
not, yeah, it's not a proper career."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that kind of put the kibosh on that. And to this
Oh.
day, it's a regret. I wonder if I could have made a fist of it. I wonder if.
Mm,
So there was a bit of drama at school, but not to the level at which I wanted to take it.
yeah. But presumably having the journalistic background, it helps with deadlines and because you are traditionally published, deadlines and being concise in
Well,
theory.
and again, when you write, like if you're writing a pitch document for a TV show or whatever,
Mm,
that idea that you have to be able to crystallize an idea, a concept or an idea into, like a paragraph, for instance, because,
mm,
notoriously TV executives won't read more than a paragraph. that becomes a skill you have to really hone and sharpen. I mean, my favorite story about that is the idea that 20th Century Fox were taken to lunch by a producer, and they were pitching a science fiction film to them, and they were talking over lunch and chatting and chatting, and the
I
two.
have a feeling I know exactly which one you're going
Yes.
to and what the pitch was.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and the Fox executives going, when are they going to get to the pitch? Because usually they take forever, and
Mm.
eventually they go, okay, come on, what's the pitch? And they go, okay, it's 3 words. It's 3 words, and the pitch was Jaws in space, which
Yep.
is Alien.
Alien. Yep.
And they wrote the check at the dinner table right there and then.
Wow.
Um, and also the thing about deadlines, you said about deadlines. Yes, in my
Mm.
television career, I always had to hit deadlines, etc., etc. In my writing career,
You get given them,
yes, yeah, but
right?
it's the Douglas Adams quote, isn't it? About
Yes, as
I
they
love
whoosh
yeah,
by.
I love the sound of deadlines as they whoosh past me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you were
great.
very good with me actually.
Was I?
No. Yes.
Probably
Yeah, you
because I
did.
was scared, Morgan. I was just
Oh,
scared.
okay. I'm so intimidating. Yes. Exactly.
Um, but yeah, so and there is a discipline to writing. When people
Mhm.
say to me that idea of how do you write it, how do you go about writing it, as if it's some kind of mystical challenge, and I
Mm.
go, oh yeah, yeah, no, there's a real knack to it, and they go,
Mm.
what is it? And I go, oh, you put your ass in the seat and you type,
Yeah, exactly.
and
Exactly.
that's
And
kind of
most
it.
writers are pantsers. Do you plot yours at all? I mean, it helps having the series, writing series.
I always
Do you
wanted
plot
to.
ahead?
I always want to. I kind of know. I know the greatest hits along the way. I do spidergrams and flowcharts and
Mm.
try and make sure that I've got how every character. I literally a big bit of butchers. You can actually buy like post-it notes that they're the size of
Wow.
a door, and
Okay.
I kind of and they stick very nicely to all sorts of surfaces, and
Mm.
I'll map out what the relationship between the characters are, and then I'll put roughly this is where we're going to start. This is something in the middle, and that's where we're hoping to end up. And
Mm.
sometimes that I follow that, and sometimes I don't, because I prefer the idea of emergent writing. Very often I'll sit down and I won't be 100% sure where I'm going to be taking that day.
Mm.
And also as part of that, part of the creative process of that, I have periods where I don't sleep terribly well when I'm writing a book because
Right.
literally characters will wake me up in the middle of the night and go, "We're waiting on you."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that sounds a bit kind of woo-woo, but they definitely, I mean, they exist. Those characters
Mm.
exist for me. They
Mm.
exist in my head. They
Mm.
exist on the page, and I'm involved with them. I have relationships with them,
Mm.
and so that idea that they can wake you up in the middle of the night is 100% real for me because it
Yeah.
happens. It
Yeah.
does happen.
Yeah, you're not the first to say that they do. They take and I think your brain, as you get, especially as you write series, as your brain gets more used to the characters, you know what they would and wouldn't do, and think, well, actually, how about this is what I thought was going to happen, but a different path is more
Reveals
logical
itself.
or makes it
Yeah.
easier to get to the end or something.
Well,
So
it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be easier way. It just has to be. It has to feel true. I think there's about. It has to be honest. The character has to
mm,
be honest, I think.
yeah. Yeah. So have you been tempted to write any other genre than the darkish side?
So,
Might there be a Jane Marley writing romance?
absolutely. I think that's the last thing I could write. Um, so I've written a kids book. I have a manuscript for a kids book. Um, which because I produced a lot of kids television during my TV career.
Mm.
I like silliness. I like humor and
You are the
so
most serious man I've ever met.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so I wrote a detective story for kids, and it's still in the crime genre, I suppose, but it's
Mm.
very silly. It's anthropomorphic. There are talking animals in it and things like that.
Nice.
Um, but I'm hoping to find a home for that. I actually am fiercely ambitious for that, because the idea is, it makes me laugh. And I love the idea of just writing something for kids that has no great message. There's no
Mm.
educational bent to it. It's literally just about,
Just
this
fun.
is funny. This is
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
And I think that's to be presented to children at every single opportunity. The chance to
Absolutely.
just be silly and be funny. So yeah,
Because they grow up too quickly.
well, and also, they're bombarded with these things, and
Mm.
I know they're not supposed to be on social media, but we know they are, and all that and they're
Yeah.
exposed to too much. And whereas it's just nice to kick back and say, sometimes it's a good fart joke can solve everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you don't have to be, see, my husband's 58 and we still joke about silly, really silly things.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Exactly.
it's also that point of reference for kids. It's to because you can introduce wider kind of popular cultural concepts and ideas to them,
Mm.
uh, and then hang. If that's your Christmas tree, then you can hang good fart gags off those, and they'll come away. It's like when I grew up, I read the Asterix and Obelix books.
I love
Um,
those.
and they were fabulous.
Yeah.
Looking back at them now, there's stuff you wouldn't get away with anymore. But
Mm.
it engendered into me two things. I love the slapstick visual medium of them, but also it's the puns. I love puns.
Mm.
And the playfulness with language that those books exhibit. So,
Mm.
the idea that I grew up knowing about the ancient Roman Empire through the prism of,
Mm.
Asterix and Obelix and
Mm.
dogmatics is just, I think that's incredible.
Mm. Because there are more modern series like Shrek, where if you actually, it's sort of aimed at not, it's not really aimed at children because it's animated. It's sort of a wider audience, and yet there are some things in there you think actually that's quite dark or quite just in theory above children's heads, but it's so adult humor in
Mm.
there
Funnily
within a
enough,
younger context.
I mean, to put a point on that, I literally a conversation I was having on a previous Zoom before we started to speak today.
Mm.
I was describing Sweep from Sooty and
Oh
Sweep
yes.
as a comedically very dark and the kind of character who would just be happy to watch the world burn. You
Mm.
weren't expecting that to come up in our conversation today, were you?
Right. No, no, especially not with the BBC before me. So obviously you've written quite a bit now, several
Yes,
books.
yes.
Um, do you find when you've finished the first draft, because obviously I'm sure if you could go back to your earlier books and rewrite them, you would do a lot of changes to it. Do you find as you go on that a first draft in later books have been nearer to finished than
I don't I don't
earlier books?
I don't know. I don't know. Yes, I mean, I suppose yes, but I think there's an alchemy in it, that I'm almost reluctant to prod and poke around in too much.
Mm.
Um, uh, I think I'm so emotionally exhausted when I finish the first draft of a book, because it is that thing of, I need to get this out of
Splurging.
me. I need to get this out of me, and let it emerge and cook,
Mm.
and then I'll go back and do the editing and all that kind of stuff. But you're so emotionally involved with that first draft. I don't know. I can't really judge whether I've got better at nailing a final draft
Mm.
closer to the first draft than previously. Um, I think it's because again, goes back to the emotional relationships I have with the characters, that I'm just more concerned about their well-being and
Mm.
uh, letting their story shine, really, more than anything else.
Mm.
So I
Because
don't know.
character is the thing, isn't it? When I've taught in person before, I've asked the class, usually it was adult learning, so there were about 16, 17, 18 people. And I'd say out of character, setting and plot, which is the most important to you? And I think twice in 4 years, I'd have somebody say, well, the plot's more important. But then when we discuss it further, they go, actually, no, if I don't care about the character, they can win the lottery or jump from the ground back up to the cliff, but if I don't care about them, then
What's the
so,
point? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. Although I have to say that whenever inconsistencies of character drive me up the wall, there's a very famous best-selling author who, in my opinion, his early books with a returning character, detective American,
Mm,
was absolutely brilliant. And I didn't even read the blurb. I just bought the book on the day it was published, and I'd get to reading it. And then he did something with that character in one of his books in the middle of the series. The series is still ongoing now and still hugely
mm,
successful. But he let his protagonist did something so out of character and so not in keeping with everything that had gone before. I instantly
spoiled it.
turned off, and I've not read one of his books since.
Mm,
And I won't name names, but I was gutted. I was heartbroken.
mm.
Um, uh,
Because that's the thing we do I think this is why agents, publishers, readers love series,
mm,
because and I'm sure as writers, when you get to the end of a book, even if you know you're then going to write the next one in the series, there's a loss that you finished and then you want more. And if only we could, I say a reader can read a book in a weekend,
mm,
and it takes us a year, rough on average, a year from inception to the finished article, on a good day.
mm.
And then they read it over a weekend. Okay, when's the next one? Because they want more of the characters that they've grown to love.
And I suspect that author got onto the publisher kind of treadmill of a book every 8 months. Um,
Mm.
and I
And
think
there's
it began to show.
quality suffered.
Authors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a shame.
Um, I think the other thing as well, going back to that idea of what's important, character and plot. Now, I
Mm.
mean, plot holes do annoy me. They keep
Yeah.
me awake. They annoy me in
Mm.
television. They annoy me in movies. They annoy me in books.
Mm.
And I'm quite meticulous about making sure that I've crossed all the motivations for characters and their behaviors off in order to facilitate the plot as airtight as I can.
Mm.
Um, and I think I'm pretty hot on that. But one of the other things that really bothers me is if a writer puts in a detail and they put a pinprick into the balloon of their credibility.
Mm.
That really loses me as a
Mm.
reader.
Mm.
There was a character recently, another is British author, but set their books in America, talked about somebody it being in a kind of grungy diner in the Midwest of America and slamming their cup down on their saucer. And I was
Mm.
like, well, you're not in a grungy diner in the Midwest of America then, because
If
you
you've
don't
got a
have clothes.
saucer,
Yeah.
no,
And I
it'd be a chipped mug.
and the book just I've not gone back to that book. I
Mm.
didn't finish it. I've
Mm.
never read anything else by that author.
Mm.
So I'm super aware if I'm like that as a reader, I really want to serve my
Mm.
readers and my characters equally
Mm.
to make sure that they never find themselves in that
Mm.
position.
But that's an editor's job as well. The editor of that book should have, regardless of where they live, even
Yeah.
if they don't live in America,
Yeah.
that's their job to pick up things like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
boo to the editor. So do you enjoy, once you've written the first draft, do you enjoy going back through it?
I enjoy the first, second edits. What I detest, and actually this was a factor in my television career as well, is the fact that like like with a book, you end up reading your own book maybe 12, 15 times,
Mm.
maybe more.
Yeah.
And in television, I never liked when we did the edits and you get the notes from the commissioning editors, and you'd go back in and you'd have to watch the show again, and then you'd have to then sit through it because you have to watch it for quality control, technically quality control, and then you
Mm.
have to sit through it because you do the sound effects or the dubbing of the speech or you want to put a fart noise on it if it's a kids game show, or you want to
Mm.
put a woo, those, so
Mm.
you've watched it again. So that idea of endlessly re-trolling through it it's tedious to me.
Mm.
But the actual where you're fixing things and improving things, I do enjoy those first 2 to 3 edits.
Mm.
My agent once I started. My agent's based in New York, and she did this thing where she said, "Okay, well, I want to have a go through all your manuscripts, and we'll do a WB edit on them." And I was like, because I was still in awe and trying to impress. I was like, "Oh yeah, WB edit, yes, of course, of course." I was thinking,
What's the WB?
what is a WB edit? Anyway, so the manuscript came back, and literally in the comments there would be highlight WB, 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 all the way through the manuscript. Excuse me. And eventually I had to give in and said to my agent, "Liz, what does WB mean?" And she just looked at me and she went, "Write better."
Oh no. Oh.
I was like, "Oh yeah, okay.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense." And
Oh.
but it was great. But again, as we started the conversation about exacting and all that, I'd rather be challenged and pushed than just to let things skate and slide.
But equally, I mean, it's a big ask saying write better. See, as an editor, I would suggest not necessarily, because I'm very conscious of not changing author's voice.
Yeah.
So I would give alternatives. And plus also it depends on how far an author is through their career. You know, I've worked with debut authors and authors who've had 20, 30, 40 books out. And so I'm very conscious and I edit, like you know my editing. We've done some books with Bloodhound. And so I say I edit as a reader. Well, it's two things. I edit for the 100th reader. So 99 won't notice, but one always will. But also I edit as a reader. So if there's a bit I particularly like, I'll put funny or love this or a tick or something, because I think it's just as important to yes, you want to learn from editing, but equally you want to know what works. Because very, very rarely will you have, possibly never, will you have the reader in front of you to laugh at the points that my husband was reading one of my books, the first Dog Detective O. Henry. And I was sitting there, can't remember what I was reading, probably on my laptop doing something. And I was waiting for him as he was going through it on his Kindle to laugh. And he did occasionally. But I kind of sit there thinking, oh, I'd like you to laugh a bit more often. But he reads sci-fi, so it's not really his genre. You know, it happened to be, it was a free weekend offer. And I said, oh, go on, download it and read something. So I can say you've read something of mine, because I don't write sci-fi. And so, yeah, he did say he really enjoyed it. But it would have been nice a bit more
Feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So I'm very conscious, because you don't get to know what people think is funny, especially humor. And most books, crime or otherwise, will have some should have some form of humor. Yeah.
They can't be relentlessly bleak, or else you'll be battering the reader into submission.
Yes.
I mean, I think the WB edit thing was really, my agent is, that's an agent. That's typical of an agent. It's like, just make it good, then I can sell it.
Yeah. But that's the thing. The thing, we'll come on to cover some marketing in a minute. But even if you disagree with your publisher on something, I mean, it's different if it's changing something that's a step too far. But you kind of, even if you don't feel it's a cover you would have chosen, then you have to hope that they know what they're doing, because agents don't make any money if you don't sell the book. And publishers obviously want to sell as many as possible for their cut. So you have to, there's a balance, isn't there, between
there's a trust.
them.
There's a trust that you have to kind of just go with the flow sometimes. But I think I mean, as with all authors, creative control. Oh, I want to approve the cover and all that kind of stuff. I think that, all I would ever come back on is nobody knows those characters, that book, that plot better than me.
You. Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to pick your battles. You know when to put your foot down and when not to. And I think that's one of the things I say about my writing career, in this encapsulates writing and editing and marketing and all of that, is that I
Mm.
don't have a learning curve. I have a learning cliff face.
Oh, I like
And
that.
it's and I don't think that'll ever change. I don't think nobody ever gets to a point in a writing career where they just think, I
I
know
know
all,
everything. No,
because that's
I,
just not possible. And
no.
if I thought it was possible, I wouldn't be interested in being a writer.
Mm.
So
And you've had books published with two editors, two publishers.
yes, yeah,
Yes. How have you found the processes? Do they differ? Obviously, you're working with different people, so different methods. Uh,
yes, uh, and again, learning learning cliff faces in both of those experiences.
mm,
Um, have I always found it fruitful? No. Have I found it painful? Yes. Have I found it uplifting? Also, yes. Um, but I think that what you have to bear in mind is that it's what I always seek most importantly for me is a collaborative relationship in those moments.
mm,
And if it's not collaborative, um, and obviously that's a two-way street. I have to be as open to collaborating as they are,
mm,
as a publisher. And if it's not collaborative, then it becomes a bit soul destroying. Um, uh, and I know from talking to other authors that finding that true collaborative relationship with your publisher is the golden goose. It's the curate's egg. It's the hen's
mm,
teeth.
mm,
It's the golden fleece. So um, uh, I haven't found that relationship 100% just yet, but I'm in a better place now than I have been previously.
mm. And how much of the marketing are you?
Oh,
Because you kind of hope that having a publisher on board, because you're giving up certain control, that they would do chunks of the marketing in order, because there are some publishers who do all the marketing, so that I know we went to see Mick Herron last year at Buckingham Literary Festival, and he said he doesn't have to do any marketing. He is on social media, but he has people to do that. And every now and then they'll check something with him, but they want him to write more books. Therefore, they do all of his marketing,
um, I'm and some
but
publishers
very rare. Yeah,
do no marketing whatsoever.
yeah.
It's like the old expression, let's throw it at the wall and see if the cat licks it. I mean that kind of that's been my experience thus far. I'm terrible.
Mm,
I'm terrible on social media. I'm terrible at that kind of banging the drum and self-promotion. Um,
mm.
uh,
Because
and,
it's a big commitment, isn't it? If you're on more than one, and they say post something. Well, initially years ago it was blog at least once a week. And now it seems to be even if you just post on social media once a day, it's still if you're on Facebook and X and Instagram, and I recently signed up on TikTok, and then I'm going to set up a YouTube channel and share these on YouTube, and it's a
yeah,
it's a big chunk
it's
of the
exhausting.
day.
And
Because
it's
also then it's looking out for if people comment, you want to reply, and so on and so forth.
I mean, you could literally every author could benefit from having a social media manager, definitely.
Mm,
Uh, I just, I'm going to sound like a Luddite now. I don't particularly enjoy it.
mm,
Um, uh, what I do like is the idea that people. I love the idea that you're attracting eyes to the text. You get readers interested and engaged.
mm.
There's something about it that just gives me the ick. Isn't that what the young people call it these days? The
I
ick.
wouldn't know. We
Wow.
have we have three animals in this house. A dog and two cats. So I have no clue. I was at my Tim and I had our second wedding reception for wider family and friends, and his Australian lot were over. That's his brother and sister-in-law and their kids and their spouses. And we were talking about language, and his sister's written some YA books, and we were talking about language, and we're so lost touch. And I spotted something literally the next day on I think it was on Facebook, because I'm on there more than anything else, and I don't even know what the original words mean. but they like, I can't even say something like grumph, but not really. It's something more obscure than that. And then it means something you really wouldn't. It's like two alien words put
Language.
together.
Yeah.
This is what they're saying, and this is what it means. But no,
Uh,
I have no clue.
no, it just there's something. I don't know. It doesn't. Social media is something like it's a bit like New Year's resolutions. Every now and again, I promise myself I will be more
You'd be
disciplined,
better.
engaged, more,
Yeah, yeah.
with more alacrity than I do presently.
Mm.
So
But
maybe we'll
it's
get,
remembering to do it as well.
yeah,
When a week or two goes by and you think, oh,
and you know what writers are like. If you can avoid
mm,
doing something as a writer, you do. Oh, there's a window to look out. Hold on, just give me 5 minutes
yeah,
just to look
yeah,
out this
yeah.
window.
But then that's the thinking process, is looking out of windows.
I
You
have to
never
say,
know what you come up with when you're looking
that's
out
one
of
of
a
the
window.
that's completely true. It's one of the hardest lessons is because you give yourself a hard time when you're not actually sitting down and writing.
Mm,
When in actual fact, what you're doing is you're walking around the house making the 15th cup of tea of the day, or straightening the doily on the bedside lamp table or whatever. But what you're actually doing is you're letting your subconscious sort
yeah,
out that plot point or that character trait or
exactly.
that line of
Yeah,
dialogue.
yeah,
And it's easy to fall into the trap of giving yourself a hard time that you haven't hit your word count today or
mm,
whatever that deadline happens to be, and then mistake that for not being productive or not working, when in actual
mm.
fact, as a writer, you're never off.
No,
Never off. Excuse
no.
me. So yeah, it's social media is one of those things I will get to. I promise. Dip, dip, dip.
No problem. So what are you working on next?
So I'm about to start with an editor on a book I've written about Northern Ireland, the troubles of Northern Ireland. It's an American editor that my agent has recommended. Apparently,
Mm,
he's very strict. I'm scared.
okay, okay.
Um, uh, so I'm about to go through the edit process of that manuscript. It's a very personal book, that to me. It is
Mm,
crime fiction,
okay.
but it does feature a lot of experiences that I lived through growing up.
Mm,
I was 14 during the hunger strikes in Northern Ireland in 1981. So formative time for me and just in any human's life, 14 is, especially for a boy, you're all gangle and awkwardness and you don't know if it's Tuesday or Cockfosters. Um, uh, so, and then to have that kind of extraordinary paroxysm in Ireland's history at that point to happen at the same time as you're trying to work out where these hairs came from on your chest. So I wanted to write a book about that. So the edit process of that will be quite challenging because it's very personal.
mm.
Very personal. Excuse me.
That'll be interesting. It'll be interesting that it's a book set in Belfast, but you have an American editor.
Hmm. Yeah, and although I'm lucky, I haven't had conversations with him, he is interested in that period of Irish history. So
Mm,
it's good that he has an awareness.
yes. And invariably, America is such a huge market that there's absolutely no harm in having an American editor for a book that could, especially with an American agent, because she will know who the right person to submit it to out there.
It'll be an interesting experience because there's a lot of the dialogue is written in dialect
Mm,
to reflect, kind of the characters and the times.
mm.
And I've tried to soften that as much as I can, but at the end of the day, characters
You
have to
want it to
speak
be
with their,
real.
yeah, they've got to
Got
speak
to
with
be
their own
real.
tongues. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I shall let you go and have a drink of water or something stronger, because it is afternoon. It's 10 to 3.
Yeah,
So
the sun is over the yard arm, isn't that the expression?
absolutely, absolutely. It is the PM,
Yes.
as the saying goes. It's been a pleasure,
And thank you
and
for asking, Morgan. I appreciate it.
you're
And
very welcome. No, it was lovely to see you a couple of months ago, or not even that, maybe at Denise Beddoes, Chiltern Crime
Children Crime
Quarterly.
Quarterlies. Yeah,
Yes,
they're
yes,
good. They're cool. Denise, lovely. And
yes, Yes.
That's good writers to those, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Well, I'm there. I shall be heckling myself because I'm on the panel in a fortnight. So
Oh
that's
yes,
a week next Saturday.
I'm
So
out
I
of the
think there are
country, or else I was going to go to that, but I'm out
fabulous.
of the country.
Oh, that's okay. Well, another time because it'll be quarterly. So I shall be trying to keep quiet in the audience at the next one, but not always easy.
Thanks again, Morgan.
You're very welcome. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll be back in within a month or two and start with your first book and work our way forwards
Yes,
with
please.
a live Q&A, hopefully.
I
Okay.
hope people are interested.
Yes, absolutely. They will be. Absolutely. Okay. Thanks very much.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye. Bye.
Bye.